learn something. We're not content with just the headlines or the typical talking points.
It's a refreshingly honest conversation about what's going on.
It's about connecting our community and doing something to really make a difference.
We're taking today's stories and bringing positivity back. What's up, everybody? Happy Wednesday. Welcome to Take 5. Another beautiful day. Believe it or not, I come to work on this bad boy every single day. The reason, well, many reasons. A, though, traffic. Awful, right? We all know that. Take the bus in, hop on this, get to the station. Let me introduce you to the crew. Michelle Lee, Christopher Cashman,
Hi.
Angela Poe Russell. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Great, it's warm.
Yeah, I know
Hey,
it is
see,
warm.
since we're starting a new relationship with our viewers here,
Yes.
and they are built upon honesty,
Getting real. Getting
you
real.
skateboard about 6 blocks.
Yeah, exactly.
You
Let's
do
be
get on
real.
the bus first.
And I'm not good at this. I mean, I have a scar
I
on
want
my
people
face,
looking for you
so-
on the freeways going, hey, there he is.
Yeah, exactly.
But you were bringing this up to make
Yeah.
a point
Right.
about traffic.
Yeah, because we all know traffic is an absolute nightmare. Cashman, I mean,
Show
you've
of
seen it.
hands, who got to enjoy that Revive I-5 last weekend? Survive I-5.
No bueno. Not
Some
fun
good
at
news
all.
today. Did you hear? They have postponed it. They were going to do it again this week, and they postponed it due to inclement weather. So we don't have to avoid I-5 this weekend. Some good news there.
Yay.
But we're talking about the commute, right? The traffic is awful. Yeah, I grew up here. When I was a kid, you could buzz into Seattle 15, 20 minutes. Now it's 15, 20 minutes once you're inside of Seattle, once you're just exiting to get into Seattle, right? So we're talking about creative ways people commute, and you really do take the bus, and then you hop a skateboard.
Got to do something. Michelle, do you want to ask the viewers the question that we want to ask them?
Absolutely. So I want to know, like, from skateboards to like rollerblades. I don't know. I saw
Segways.
like foldable kayaks too.
Yep.
What is your ideal way to
Yeah.
get around town? Not only like how do you get around town, but what's your ideal way?
Have you guys seen
Teleport?
those? They've got those like unicycle type things where you can step on them and they have a motor and you just kind of hop on.
Yeah, the one wheel.
one wheel.
It's a solar wheel, I believe they're called officially. So 206-448-4545. What's your ideal way to get to work? We're all dreaming, but I'm excited about something I'm going to show you in a little bit later. Think the skies. I'll give you a
you're
clue.
just gonna leave us-
Drones, ladies and gentlemen. And it's not just a dream, it's happening. It's already a real thing across the world. And the guy that I talked to, and you'll take you inside the cockpit, says he predicts within 2 years in the States.
Wow.
We'll be flying around.
Like
you
Mary
believe
Poppins,
it? I don't know.
something.
Do you
I don't know.
believe
I believe anything you say,
it?
Chris.
All right, hey, thank you.
Well, look, believe me, if you're new to Take 5, we have this segment called Game Changers, and we are so honored and excited to tell you about today's Game Changer. She was a teacher who saw a need and decided, you know what, I'm just going to venture out and start my own school. Her story is coming up in just a little bit right here on Take 5.
Cannot wait.
Fun.
Yeah.
All right, so now let's move on to 5 interesting stories happening today in what we call the Fast 5. A caravan of Central American migrants crossing Mexico is now arriving in Tijuana, and most are planning to seek asylum at the U.S. border this weekend. The group is made up of about 600 people, many saying they are fleeing violence and extortion in Honduras and El Salvador. An ex-police officer has been arrested as a suspected serial killer. Can you believe that?
Wow.
Back in the 70s and 80s, he was known as the Golden State Killer. He is now 72 years old. U.S. officials forced their way into the Russian consulate in Seattle this morning. They were making sure the building was empty at midnight per an order from President Trump. All right, guess what? Home values in Seattle are up. And I know, you already knew that. But the Chase Schiller Home Price Index says home values are up 85% from 2012. Only 2 cities actually had bigger gains. Can you guess what they are? San Francisco and Las Vegas.
I hear a bubble about to pop.
And wow, if you tried to get through downtown last weekend, we talked about it. You know, the commute was a little painful. You can thank WashDOT's Revive I-5 for that, and here's some drone video of that as well. Get ready for round 2. We're still waiting to see what they're going to do this week, and we did just find out that they're going to postpone it, so good news, it'll be much easier to get around this weekend, but that just means we're delaying the inevitable. So it should be here before you know it. And then you can text the word FAST to 448-4545, and you'll get some of those topics right to your phone. Can I comment real quick on the housing one? You were saying it's up, what, 85% or
Since
something?
2012.
Since 2012. So I was just talking to my dad, and I don't know if you guys remember the bust. Las Vegas, Phoenix, these are some of the big cities that crashed the hardest. He's in Vegas, and he said he just heard that lenders are doing the loans where you don't have to prove your income anymore. Again, that's what happened to one of our crashes. So you could just say, oh, I make $200,000.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Right? And then we
Really?
bust it. And he said he was talking to some real estate agents, and they're finding out that there are some lending officers that are doing that again. Why?
Not
Don't we
terribly
learn from our
surprising.
mistakes?
Yeah.
We
Why are we
don't
doing this?
often.
Yeah.
Come on. Anyway, so I just wanted to point that out.
Interesting
Just be careful.
insight. Okay.
A lot of text messages coming in, people weighing
I know,
in
I'm
on
trying to
this,
get through
the ideal commute situation. A lot of people, wanting to fly. One skateboarder is joining you, Jordan. He wants a James Bond jetpack to get to
Yeah,
work.
us too.
Let's not bring
Look at
fuel
that one
into
on my
this.
motorcycle.
Motorcycle.
Want to ride?
My dream would be to ride to work on a dire wolf.
Angela, I think he wants to give you the ride to work. Notice he did not include any of us. Chris and Kent is waiting to commute with you to work. Way to go.
I can see it right now.
What's a dire wolf?
I don't know.
An actual wolf? My dream would be to ride to work on a dire wolf. Oh, Game of Thrones. That's a Game of Thrones reference. We're hip and happy.
These are good,
here.
though.
I
Yeah.
take 5. Way to
Okay, nice. Okay, now you're going to tell us about the air taxi, right?
Well, we want to tell you about this
yeah.
air taxi, because I know a lot of us are looking for solutions. Light rail's coming eventually. Jordan takes a bus and then he takes a skateboard. But there are actually some other opportunities. One of them may be on the horizon. I got a little sneak peek at an air taxi. It sounds scary. It's very much real. Take a look at this.
Yeah, hello there. Do not attempt to adjust your television set. You are looking at the world's first autonomous air taxi. I had to separate all of those words because they all mean something different. I'm here with Alex, the founder of Volocopter. This is impressive. This is very cool. This is, by the way, already being used in Germany. You're here in North America for the first time. An autonomous, meaning it's got a brain of its own, flies by itself, air taxi. This is exciting. Is it safe?
So this is really safe. So you can develop a really safe system. So what is not safe is a person who control it, because the person may make the mistake.
So you think it's safer to take human error out of the equation?
Yeah, it's not only the pilot what is the risk. So we have a really high redundant system, so we can lose a lot of our components of our motors, of our rotors. So it's really safe. And we fly since 2011. We had our first manned flight with this technique, 2011. We have since 2016 a permit to fly in Germany, so we can fly all around in Germany without restrictions with this aircraft. It's like using an Uber, so you catch it with an app and you pay for the service. So we want to bring the service to the people and to everybody. So it would be also really affordable. So it must not be more expensive than Uber Black, for example. So everybody can take with us in the air in the future, in the near future.
We got a flight to catch.
I don't know, some nervous energy
Did you
at
see
this
what she
table.
just did? Do it again.
No, I don't know what I did. I
You
mean,
get the EBGBs.
it looks cool. You make the video.
Yeah.
They make the video look so executive and it's cool.
No, I will say that interview, we were in Las Vegas. Obviously, they weren't just going to go fly over the strip, but that's the real deal. It's airborne. You heard them talk about the redundancy. It's got more blades than they need. You'll notice it was round and the propellers were positioned in around that so that they can have a parachute. So they have thought about a lot of this, and he is not only already in the air in Europe, but he predicts 2 years here in Seattle. And he does, by the way, specifically reference Seattle because he said, "Oh, Supersonics, Detlef Schrempf. I played with him on the German basketball team." So he's got his eye.
Michelle had a better face on this.
Yeah, she was giving me the hairy eyeball.
Scared. Heights.
I don't want to do that. There's no way. I would never
I
do
can
that.
just imagine having like 40 or 50 of those in the air at one time, right? I mean, if it's like Uber where you have cars all over the place when you look at the map.
We'll have
imagine
drones
and
out the
that's-
window and everyone just flying around. I mean, if
Not
the
happening.
traffic gets bad enough, you may consider it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Well, look, this is pretty cool. Some just released numbers out of Cuba. The Cuban government show the country is actually struggling to get Americans to visit. Now, just a few years ago, you may remember under President Obama's administration, the rules changed to allow Americans to more easily travel to the island. And by the time President Obama left office, American travel to Cuba had tripled. But today we're learning U.S. travel to Cuba has dropped 7% in the first 3 months of this year. Now, the reason for this, last fall, President Trump tightened travel restrictions again. And meanwhile, the Cuban government is hoping to reach a record 5 million foreign visitors this year, they're coming from other countries other than the U.S.
So I'm always curious about this. Do the Cuban people want U.S. visitors to come and visit, or are they like, no, we want to keep our country the way it is?
It's mixed. I mean, when I visited in the countryside, people were like, oh my God, it's American. It's American. Look, we've been waiting for you.
Okay.
So I think in the city part, I think it varies. But yeah, I think they're very curious about us. But you have an experience you're going to tell us about, right?
Oh, well, I haven't gone. I just have a lot of friends who have gone on like medical missions, and they really have loved it. It's fascinating. Like, they would go around hospitals. This was when I was in Wisconsin, and they would collect all the old medical supplies that hospitals weren't using, like x-ray machines or microscopes or whatever, and then send them to Cuba, which I thought was pretty cool. But they were like, it would probably be better in a couple of years.
Yeah. Is it true it's like going into the past?
It is, and we're actually going to do a little.
Okay.
Yeah, I have some pictures to show you, but
cool.
you have a story first.
Yeah. Let's get to this, because a high school teacher in Bothell, I want to give him a shout out, took a Spanish class on a life-changing trip to Cuba earlier this month. Now, Carlos Lazo says he wants his class to feel like an experience of Spanish language and culture. So the North Creek high school teacher took his class of 27 all the way to Cuba. In 3 months, the students raised all the money they needed with fundraisers and GoFundMe campaigns. Some families even sponsored students who couldn't raise the $1,700 to go themselves. The students just returned and brought back some amazing takeaways.
The people I was living with, they were two old like grandparents, and they had grandchildren and children and all that. I was talking to them, and they always talked about like really cool things about Viñales and really cool things about their grandchildren or their daughters. So that like connected me to them. And then at the very end, they gave me a pineapple, like as I was leaving. Yeah, as like a parting gift.
There are a lot of kids just wandering around Havana because, it's just kind of what they do. And I found one of them, and he told me his name. I said, "What's your name?" And he said, "Angelo." And so I introduced myself to him. We kind of had this little like connection. I gave him a piece of gum, and he gave me a hug. And really, it was just really great to be able to interact with some of like, a local kid like that. One of the biggest lessons that I learned is just how much I take for granted, like in my home country. There are a lot of places that you can go and you just don't have a lot of the things that you have access to here in the U.S. and like especially like where we live. So I think it's just what I really learned about is just how much I take for granted.
Isn't that cool?
Fascinating. Wow.
Yeah, like a once-in-a-lifetime experience, I know, for some of them.
Absolutely.
And, it's funny because when I did share with people that I'd been, the first thing is like, oh, I didn't know that you could go. And I think it's an example of why we should go beyond headlines, because you hear, oh, we're tightening regulations, but no, you actually can go. It's just you have to kind of be a little, not tricky, but crafty, maybe.
How so?
There's a better word. I'm going to tell you. The bottom line is that you can go to Cuba. I love that you're anticipating what's coming up next. But the restrictions have changed. So here are the ways that you can make it happen. You can travel with a group. There are all kinds of organizations, travel groups. You can legally go with a group. The other reason, you may remember that education was a requirement for traveling if you wanted to go as an individual. That is gone. But you can do something that's called Support for Cuba. So if you check that box, it's for Support for Cuba. But you do need to document your itinerary so that the government ever says, hey, what did you do to support Cuba when you went? You need to do that. So if you'd like more information, we can send you a link. So just text Cuba to 206-448-4545. We'll send you a link where you can get more information.
Awesome.
Does that make sense?
It makes sense.
Okay. So look, you asked me about whether it was like going in the past. And yes, because if we can bring up the picture, the transportation
Mostly
one.
the vehicles, yeah.
Yeah, it's the vehicles. So to get around, it's a lot of cars like this, but there are also just some really old American vehicles just, prior to 1950. And then if you go outside of Havana, you still see horse and buggy and bicycles.
Wow.
I mean, so it's still like that. And like I said, it just like in the U.S., sometimes people in the city where it's busier and there's more going on are different than you in the country. And in the country, people are like, oh my gosh, you're an American. Let me take a picture.
Yeah.
It's
I've been daydreaming about going ever since I saw, once the restrictions changed, Rick Steves, Seattle's very own.
Yeah.
Technically Mukilteo's very own. Rick Steves did a special. He went, and that was one of the things that I found the most charming is he says, this time warp that you'll see with the vehicles on the road are amazing. They will look like they pulled them right out of a showroom, and you'll think, how do you still have those? It's because they still have them and drive them. So,
And those
very
cars
cool.
will probably last forever, just because that's when they were made to like withstand everything.
Real metal.
Classic. Yeah,
Yes.
real metal, exactly. All right, so I don't know if you guys heard yesterday about the Special Olympics story. So here's the bottom line. Special Olympics Washington is making some changes after a swimmer was actually disqualified at a regional competition. Now, the claim was he actually swam too fast. This is a Facebook post from Sunday Show's Joshua Coy, just moments after he received the crushing news. He says he made good time. It was about a 15% improvement from his last recorded swim. But that was a red flag for the quote-unquote maximum effort rule. So this is something Special Olympics Washington introduced to ensure athletes are challenging others of similar abilities. His mom was super surprised of that rule.
We had been swimming regionals for many years, and this is the first time they've had the rule for swimming too fast.
So following complaints, Special Olympics Washington is actually now making changes. The maximum effort rule has increased from 15% to 30%. Joshua and other swimmers will also have their times reinstated. And we just got a statement from the Special Olympics. But today, our reporter, Michael Crow, Skyped with the Special Olympics for some information.
So if you had a message to parents and competitors that were impacted by this, you know, some of the folks that have reached out to us with frustrations, is there something that you would say to them?
Yes, just we're sorry that this impacted you this way. We're sorry that your competition experience ended the way it did that day. But know that our intention was to give you the best competition we can. So stay with us. Keep talking about what works, what doesn't work. Give us your feedback. We are listening.
Powerful.
Yeah. Well, at least they are listening, they're acknowledging it, and they're trying to provide the best competition for folks. I mean, you have to give that face value until something else changes. So. All right, it is National Infertility Awareness Week, and we are talking about it all week long. We want to help you get educated. So, have you ever heard of an egg freezing party? Someone might have old eggs, just saying. We're going to explain on the other side of the break. But first, a look at how you spent the day out in the sun. We're going to be right back.